Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
Sam. Great to see you. Hey, for anybody who did miss the earlier part of the show, we noted that we first got to know you through your time at 97.5 The Fanatic, where you did sports updates in the mornings. And you've also been hosting or co-hosting the Babes on Broad podcast. I always want to say Babes on Broadway, but I have to stop. Babes on Broad, as in Broad Street. And something brand new that just premiered over the weekend. You're hosting a TV show on NBC Sports Philadelphia called Down the Line with Charlie and Bo. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But again, welcome to the show, Sam.
Thanks, guys. I'm excited. It's been a while. I feel like, obviously the TV and Babes on Broad, but that's not really face to face. So it's cool. I like doing live. I miss it.
Yeah. Now, we're going to talk about the show, like I said, in a few minutes. But for people wondering who didn't maybe know of you and your time at 97.5 The Fanatic, what's your background? Did you grow up in Philly, and how did you decide to get into the sports media world?
So I actually grew up in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. So probably about 45 minutes outside southwest of the city. And I went to Coatesville High School, came up in all the elementary schools. And I actually found out I wanted to do sports reporting in the 7th grade because we did a report on what we wanted to be when we grew up in Mr. Noonan's class, my English teacher at that time. And I actually wanted to be an oceanographer. And then when I was researching it with my dad, I remember reading something about how they could be out at sea for months at a time and stuff. And my first question to my dad was, "Well, Dad, how am I going to watch the Eagles?" And and then he was like, "Well, maybe you should do something in the sports world." So I started looking around. I did like athletic training, all that stuff wasn't me. And then I realized I loved Erin Andrews and I loved all the girls on the sidelines. So I was like, I could totally do that. I have the personality. I actually used to host shows when I was little with my cats. So it fit perfectly. And then I've been on Pursuit ever since then. And I went to Lock Haven University. Doesn't really have a broadcast program. So I went for communications and then minored in journalism and electronic media. And then just kind of made my own path from there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so you mentioned your dad a couple times. I guess he was a big sports fan, and is that where you got it from? And one of those diehard Philly sports families?
Oh, 100%. So I actually consider myself a fan of the game. And I think in this field, you kind of have to. Obviously we have our favorites, but you can't be biased. It's like journalism #1. So my family, my brother was always like, "Oh, you're not a real Philly fan. Like you're a fan of the game, blah, blah, blah," kind of thing. My mom is a bigger sports fan than my dad was, which is hilarious. She's still diehard. But my dad, yeah, we used to listen to sports radio all the time with my dad in the garage. And that's actually how I found out about Mike Missanelli. And that's how I got in to my job at the Fanatic, because I interviewed him my very first ever college assignment. And then he actually got me my television job now with Down the Line too. So shout out Mike Missanelli.
Awesome. Well, Bill and I go way back with our sports memories because, we're ancient. But your formative sports years, I guess, would be the latter part of the Allen Iverson era with the Sixers, the Donovan McNabb era Eagles, who were always pretty competitive, went to the NFC Championship game 5 times, Super Bowl once. And then the Phillies' great teams of 2006 to 2011. Some good memories there, and certainly not a bad time to be a Philadelphia sports fan.
Oh, no, not at all. It's the type of atmosphere and the time in the city with all those sports teams that really make you a diehard. And that's what I grew up in. I just loved the enthusiasm and the passion of the city. I remember vividly, probably one of my first sports memories was Allen Iverson walking over Tyronn Lue. And then obviously working with Trey Thomas on the morning show was insane because the Eagles at that time were my favorite team out of everything, my favorite sport overall. And then it kind of transitioned perfectly. I guess maybe I never even correlated this, but because of the World Series team in 2008 and how good they were during that stretch of years you mentioned. And it's just so crazy. I didn't get to go to the parade for that because I was only 13. So I had to go to school. But all my siblings got to go. My parents got to go. Everybody else got to go besides me. But it's so cool that we got to live that. But I don't think at that time, because I was so young, I realized the pain that it was causing, that we were getting so close and not going. Besides, I do remember bawling my eyes out when we lost the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Well, Sam, I hate to tell you, but when you're old and crotchety like Chet and I, you've been fortunate that you've grown up with all good teams. in Philly for the most part, except for the process portion of that mess. But we got to see the 70s and the 60s when there were some bad sports teams here in town.
I know. That's what's interesting to me. Like, I think it's easy because I grew up, like you said, with the good teams. And then even when the process was happening, I was away at school. So I wasn't really even around. Like, I wouldn't even try to watch the teams or the games because they were that bad. But I would catch like the highlights and stuff and what I need to know from Twitter. But it's interesting for, like you said, the older crowd, like you guys. What made you Philadelphia fans? I mean, you didn't have I guess you have big names with the Sixers and the Flyers and the Phillies back then, but you had to wait around until you got some success, right?
Well, we both grew up in Eastern Pennsylvania. I was up in the coal region, Schuylkill County. Bill was a Delco guy. So, you're provincial. You go with who everybody else in the area roots for, except for like the stinking Cowboys fans who get somehow thrown in there, but can't stand that.
Well, and the other thing too is there wasn't all this mass media.
Right.
There was one game on, and that was the Eagles.
Oh, that's a great point.
Whoever, there might have been a late afternoon game where you got the stinking Cowboys, all the time. But, there just wasn't a ton of games to watch. If you were a sports person, you watched the home teams because that's all there was.
Sam, we didn't have cell phones or internet when we were kids.
It's hard to believe. I didn't technically either. I got my first phone. It was a track phone when I was 11, so it only worked if my mom bought me minutes for emergencies. But
oh my! All right, let's get to the TV show. It is called Down the Line with Charlie and Bo, and I want to show everybody a short clip from the show. This was the show that debuted on Saturday. Here's a clip of you with Charlie and Larry.
So Charlie, you already brought it up. 80, 08. I wasn't around for 80. I was around for 08. Who was the better team? Who would win?
Well, let's just compare their positions. My catcher was Bob Boone. My catcher was Ruiz, Chooch. My first baseman, Pete Rose. My first baseman was a big piece, Ryan Howard. My second baseman was Manny Trio. My second baseman was Chase Utley. My shortstop was me.
He's got confidence in that one.
Sam, that's got to be a lot of fun with those two guys. That is a lot of baseball knowledge right there with those two.
Oh, it's so much fun. And it's crazy to me because obviously I've known about the show probably since February, but it wasn't set in stone until like probably about maybe 2 months ago because of all the sponsorship and everything that goes into TV and all that stuff. But it's so surreal to me. When this got brought up to me, it was just a phone call. I was trying to get my real estate license because nobody in our field had any clue when broadcasting jobs would come back. I already lost my job at the station because of COVID. So it was just, I was not ready for it. And then a phone call came and was like, hey, you want to host a TV show with Charlie Manuel and Larry Boa? And thank God it was over the phone because I'm trying to be professional, But it was like one of the things, my eyes lit up. And you can't help but have happy tears, because like those names are so huge. And like I said, I mean, baseball is my whole world, especially now. My fiance's in the Pirates organization. So that, and then baseball's always been my number one in my professional career. And being my first television job, it was just, it's a ton of fun.
So is this going to be a series or how's this going to work? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, so right now it's funny because me and Charlie, 100%, and probably Larry, we haven't even gone as far as actually talking about it, but we want to do it all the time. It's what NBC Sports and our production team and all them, what they decide. But right now we're signed on for 20 episodes and They come out every single Saturday. So yeah, now May 29th was our first episode, and now until I guess it's like first or second week of October is what we're scheduled for now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I saw that you were down at Broad and Arch, I guess, and in the one part of the show, somebody just came by and starts talking to Charlie and Larry while you're interviewing them. Does that happen occasionally when you're out in public like that?
Yes, and I was not prepared for it. Obviously, everybody saw my reaction because I was just like,
we're taping here.
Yeah, I know. It's so embarrassing. But it actually ended up happening so often because at first when that happened, I was like, oh, it's film. Like I've done live all the time, So I was like, oh, it's just like pre-recorded. We can just start over again. But it, as you saw later, it just kept happening. So I guess they just kept rolling with it because also with those guys, you want their raw reaction when you're getting those questions. Like the clip you showed, was so amazing to me because, like I said in the clip, I wasn't around for the 80 team. And obviously I know all those classic names, but when he was saying them, I was like, it just kind of hit me. And I like wasn't realizing all those names were on one team.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no wonder they won the World Series back then. It makes sense now.
Yeah. Well, you know, Sam, I've been fortunate enough to get to know a lot of people from a lot of different sports. No one is like baseball players. You know, the stories that these guys tell, they spend, you know, 162 games together plus spring training, and they travel together, and they like no one else. Baseball players are the best storytellers there are, and you got two great ones.
Oh yeah. I mean, they spend, like you said, 8 to 9 months out of the year is with each other. And it is, I mean, my fiance's in the Pirates organization, like I said, so I live with them when we're not recording. And it is just such a different atmosphere because it's like family. Everybody's just best friends. You have to like be able to feed it back and kind of have that relationship. And if you don't like somebody, you're going to get over it because you have to see them the entire time, you know?
Sam, how many episodes have you filmed so far?
We filmed 5, and then this upcoming week, so I think it's the 7th to like the 10th or the 11th or something, we will film 5 more episodes. So we're kind of doing it because both of the guys still work in the Phillies organization. So Charlie, I think his actual real home is in Clearwater, and he does a lot of stuff with the Clearwater Threshers, which is now the, I think, low A because they switched it around. But so they all do stuff within the minor leagues, but Charlie does a lot down there. So we try to cram it all in to their traveling schedule and the Phillies games and all that, because they still go to every single Phillies game. So it's tough.
Did Charlie talk about his time in Japan? I know he had a great time playing over in Japan.
So we've mentioned it a couple times, but we have not actually gotten into it. And it's one thing I'm dying to ask for one of the upcoming shows because it's so interesting to me. I mean, a guy like Charlie, you guys know, such a wholesome guy from Virginia, and then he goes over to Japan and thrives and becomes a national icon over there in their sport. So it is one thing I'm dying to ask.
Yeah.
So Sam, what's the time? When's the show? Give all the listeners some information.
Yeah, so it's on NBC Sports Philadelphia. It gets re-aired throughout the week, but new episodes premiere. It's supposed to be after Phillies post game every Saturday, but because of the Sixers schedule right now, it's kind of different. So that's why it debuted at noon last Saturday. And I guess it depends on the Sixers schedule and what they keep doing. So hopefully, I mean, keep us on your social media so that it goes everywhere and you can find it. But yeah, so I guess they're going to keep us at noon on Saturdays, but it will always be after Phillies post game shows.
And they rerun the shows a lot. As you know, you post the schedule. They're on a lot because they have a lot of time to fill up on NBC Sports Philly. So that's great. Yeah. I noticed you filmed on Broad Street, some of that, as we discussed. And you're, of course, also a host or a co-host of the occasional podcast, Babes on Broad. Are you and Jessie Town still continuing with that?
Yes, we are. She was actually just at my house. But yes, we are. Right now, it's kind of just hectic because she gets married exactly 1 month from today. And then I just, with Dion's season, and then I just moved into a house and renovated it and all that stuff. So we kind of are taking advantage of this off period of the Eagles, but we will pick back up in July.
All right. Nice. Hey, you mentioned social media. How can everyone follow you? Give us some places to watch what you're doing.
So mine's pretty easy. I'm at Sam Wills 18 on everything. So you can find me on there. And then at Babes on Broad, again, on Twitter and Instagram. And then at Down the Line with Charlie and Bo on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everything.
Bill, let's do a fast 5. What do you say?
Yeah, well, I was going to throw this at you, Sam. Chet has this thing where all of our first-time guests, he likes to do a little fast 5, which 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers. You up for it?
I like it. I'm going to try. My brain's a little fried, but we're going to try it.
Oh, by the way, Sam, I met you at a couple of fan fests, as I mentioned, and there's a picture of you and me from 2019. Very nice to meet you there and talk to you. So welcome back. Anyway, fast 5. Number 1, you mentioned rooting for the 2008 Phillies. We saw your reaction in the clip when Charlie mentioned Chase Utley. Was Chase your favorite Phil, or if not, who was?
Okay, so Chase was my first ever crush growing up. Still had a huge crush on him. But my favorite player was Ryan Howard. And I played softball my entire life as well. And I was number 6 because of Ryan Howard.
All right. Number 2, on the Babes on Broad Facebook page, I spotted a bunch of recipes. Are you a good cook, or whose recipes are they? What's your specialty?
Actually, Jess and I both are great cooks. And I mean, a lot of people picked it up in COVID, but my specialty, if you ask Dion, would probably be meatloaf. He loves my meatloaf, but I can make anything. I just really enjoy it. And I'm just one of those people, I'm terrible at posting recipes because I'm just like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because I just eyeball it. But that's how you make good food.
Gotcha. Number 3, in the premiere episode of Down the Line with Charlie and Bo, there was a segment with both of the guys allegedly doing the rocky run up the art museum steps. I won't put anyone on the truth-o-meter about that, Sam, but I want to ask, have you ever made the rocky run up the art museum steps?
Oh yeah, all the time growing up with my brother. We would do it. Especially when we would go for the Christmas tree thing, because it was just so cool with the Christmas tree in the background. But yes, I don't think I did that day because I was wearing heels. I took it off for a little bit to walk to the top. But yeah, I've definitely run the steps before.
Number 4, the Sixers are, of course, the top seed in the NBA East. Now we got the Joel Embiid injury situation. How far will they go this postseason?
It's tough to say because that's one of the things I'm trying to get a feel on. Are they just giving us day to day to drag us on like they normally do, the Sixers medical team, or is it just really day to day?
Don't get Bill started on that, please.
Oh, I know. I think they'll still make it to the finals. I think they'll rally. I think Joel will come back as long as it doesn't get too bad. I think they'll make it to at least the finals, and I'm hoping they'd still win it. If Joel was healthy, they'd win it. But I'm hoping.
Number 5, favorite sports movie of all time.
The Express.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, fun fact, my first ever car was a 1996 Honda Civic, and its name was Ernie, after Ernie Davis.
Oh my goodness.
Now,
And
that's
Sam,
a
I
man right there. Love it.
have a bonus question for you. Now, you mentioned you have a guy in your life. We're not going to talk about him, though, but because I follow you on Instagram and Twitter, I know there's also a very special lady in your life. What can you tell us about this young lady?
Wait, she's actually right here.
What a beautiful dog. Let's see her. Is she there?
Yes, ready? She's right here sleeping. She's
Oh,
my bestie. She's the
man.
perfect dog in this whole entire world. She's the best
I
dog.
love those pictures. Look at that.
I know. She's so big now. But yes, she's the best dog ever. And my fiance wants another one, but I don't know
Wow.
if I can handle another one because it's not going to be an angel like Nellie. So
Nellie, good old Nellie.
All right.
You did well.
Sam,
You passed.
I have one
thanks.
final question for you. You've mentioned your fiance and the Pittsburgh organization. Where's he playing? How's he doing? And when's he getting to the show?
Oh, so he actually was the top catching prospect. Now it's kind of messy. So he switched over. He asked to be switched over to outfield, and they actually kept him on AA Altoona. So he's right there now, and he just got activated. So he's starting to get back in the swing of things. But yeah, so he's in AA. Normally they would play Reading, but they cut it out this year because of COVID, which sucks. But
And his name is Dion what?
Stafford.
Dion Stafford. Gotcha.
We'll check him out.
Awesome.
All right. Well, hey, Sam, we certainly appreciate you coming by. Great first time. And hopefully we get to do it again. And best of luck to what you got going on. You got some really cool things happening.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Thank you, Sam. Take care.
You too.